What's up? What's up? It's your boy Mean Joe Green, aka Prince of the Ghetto. Y'all, I want to react to this video Napoleon that he did with Cam Capone News. And he was talking about Pop, how Ice-T didn't like the Hit 'Em Up song because, he was talking about Biggie's wife, saying that Pop going too far. But I got to give it to Napoleon. He's one of the real ones that's still out here. When you want to look at a real man, this guy right here is one, Napoleon. He tell it like it is. He don't sugarcoat. And that's the energy I get from him. And I could tell, that he matured, he growed, and he's speaking his truth about what happened with Pac on this one. So I want to react to it. And with no further ado, let's get into it.
Now, Hit 'Em Up, man. I mean, this is like, man, probably like, in my opinion, the best diss song ever. But not too long ago, Ice Cube came out saying the Hit 'Em Up isn't the best because Tupac had help.
Yeah, I seen that interview.
The best is the best, whether you have help or don't have help.
Yeah.
Whether
I gotta agree. They Hit 'Em Up was one of the best diss songs. No matter who was on it, the Outlaws was on it. Pac, spoke words, and it was fire, And I get, Cube, he had that no Vaseline and he did it by himself, but come on, they Hit 'Em Up. That was Pac. I'm talking about he went at him. He went at bad boy. So hey, I feel him. I agree. That Hit 'Em Up was a good diss.
And everybody had their right, and everybody had their opinion. I think Ice Cube and Pac probably would have had his opinion and said, no, I think Hit 'Em Up is the best. Cube gonna say his opinion, and he have a right to feel that way. You know what I mean? Cube is a legend. You know what I mean? Like, that dude is a legend. He probably opened up the doors to come a little aggressive in diss records, to be honest. Cube probably was one of the first one that came at it like that, but that's his opinion. And I kind of get where he coming from, but nah, I think back then it's not help. It's just that, because a lot of people don't know, Hit 'Em Up was an outlaw song. So Hit 'Em Up was supposed to go on the Outlaw album. It was an outlaw song. So Pac, at the beginning, didn't really want it to be, he wanted it to be part of it, but he wanted to make it seem like it's the Outlaws that's coming out with this song, and he just on the song with us. But
Oh, now it makes sense why all the Outlaws was on that Hit 'Em Up. It was an outlaw song that Pac, went ahead and took over, and I think that was a good move though. But that was an outlaw song, so that explains everything why the Outlaws was on it. But nevertheless, them boys snapped on there. I got to get on their props. Hit 'Em Up is, to me, one of the best diss songs that ever came out in hip hop. It's just facts.
I guess when it became, that's probably the one decision that Suge made that worked for Pac, where he was like, no, I wanted to be a B-side of one of Pac. Pac had a single that was coming out, and because it was getting a lot of play on the radio, they automatically rushed it to be a Pac B-side on a Pac single. But eventually, Outlaws, the Hit 'Em Up was a song that was going on our album. You know what I mean? And so that's why the Outlaws was on it, really. Not for help,
Now, what was the plan for you guys when Tupac was alive? Was it to put an album out? Like, how soon were you guys supposed to drop?
Soon, like, Pac was going to put the Machiavelli album out, and he was going to start a record label. I don't know if it was Machiavelli Records or Euthanasia Records. Outlaw was going to be the first artist on his label, distributed through Death Row. That's what I recall. So when you hear people saying Pac was going to get off of Death Row, myself personally, I never heard him talk that talk. I heard him did say that, I don't want you guys signing to Death Row because you're going to sign to me. That's what he said. You understand? So,
not gonna lie, the Outlaws, those boys was fire, man. And I would have loved to seen them come out with an album under Tupac. Tupac was finna carry those boys to heights, different heights, man. Them boys supposed to been big in the hip hop industry, you know, cause that all them knew how to speak. All them, you know, they had their own style. You know, they was real. They was talking their talk, and then they had Pac behind them. Boy, that thing, hey, that album would have been fire. But they did drop an album, you know, but it did okay. It was cool. I heard it went platinum, but imagine if Pac would have had his hand all over it. A whole nother level.
He was definitely going to start putting out albums, outlaw albums out. He was going to put an album out because he really was trying to end the East Coast, West Coast beef. So he wanted to put an album out called One Nation, where he was bringing a lot of rappers like, you know, was it Smith and Wesson, Buckshot, you know, a lot of rappers from the East Coast and the West Coast. He was going to put this album out. He was going to try to end the so-called East Coast, West Coast beef. So, but the plan was that he was going to start putting the Outlaws album out. It was, you know, it was our run.
Now, so you guys weren't signed to Death Row at that time?
At that time, we wasn't. We were just with Pac in the studio, you know, that's it. Just hanging around doing songs, holding them down, carrying the guns.
Nah, I didn't know that either. I thought the Outlaws were signed to Death Row. So Suge let Pac just, you know, have his homies all over the album, you know. And that's why Pac wanted them as his artists. It makes sense now. Damn, man, they went down. When Pac went down, the Outlaws went down also because they was under Pac.
Being security / rappers, that was our role back then.
The Hit 'Em Up track, you know, Ice Cube thought that you guys went too far. You know, what's your thoughts on that? Do you guys think you went too far?
You know, as a Muslim man, of course, I would say, yeah, we went too far. Like at my state of mind now, you understand? Because you're talking about a person's wife and these type of things. But back then, I didn't see it like it went too far. When I was in the midst of it, I felt like it was something that it was valid at that time. You know, but people grow up, you mature now, you know what I mean? So I can look back at it now, maybe because of my mindset is different, my lifestyle is different. So I would say, like, I wouldn't agree with it, you understand? Especially coming at people's wives and stuff like that. No matter what, I'm a firm believer that a man, no matter what, even as a Muslim, have a right to defend himself, has a right to fight back, have a right to stand on his 2 feet, whatever it takes, you know, to get the harm away from you, do it. I believe that, you know what I mean? But I don't agree with attacking a person's family, you understand? Or, you know, coming at them in my mindset right now. Back then, I thought it was okay.
Now,
See, that's what people need to realize. Pac was only 25 years old. Now, he was young at that time as well, and look how much he matured. So imagine if Tupac was still here. Could you see how big he would have matured by now? He just stated that Pac was trying to bring East Coast and West Coast back together. He was ready to end it. So that shows you where he was headed and what he wanted to do at that time anyway. But if Pac was still here, ain't no telling what level he would have been on. He was maturing. You know, he was trying to end that East Coast, West Coast. I mean, you know, with everybody looking at him, what he did at his younger day. And when Hit 'Em Up came out, at that time, everybody was with it. Everybody was like, that was cold. But see, as we get older, we look back on it now and we see that, you know, it was kind of childish. You know, he went too far, as he just said, Cube said. But I bet you at the time, Cube was like, well, you know, dang. Because Ice Cube understand dissing. He did that no Vaseline. He knew where Pac was coming from. But see, everybody judging Pac from what he did while he was on this earth. And, you know, he was number 25 years old. So, you know, just being real with it.
I seen Ice-T talk about this, and he said that Tupac went to his house, showed him Hit 'Em Up, and Ice-T told him, you're going in on his wife. That's not a good idea. And he said that they were on bad terms because he wanted him to ride with him.
Man, you know, yeah, like, But Pac, I think it was just Pac just the type of in the heat of the moment he just go in. You know what I mean? He just go in like he just it was very controversial in itself, and it worked.
Oh, that was Ice-T just didn't want to get into that East Coast and West Coast war because Ice-T is originally from the East Coast. So, you know, he was on bad terms. If he said that he was on bad terms with Pac at the time, well, they're just telling me that he was, you know, he didn't want to get in it, or he was, you know, still want to be cool with Biggie and Puffy.
Back then, you understand? But you know, who knows? Pop probably would have got old if if he would have survived, you know, God willing. We don't know. Only God knows. Like, not to say that it wasn't written for him to pass away, because it happens. But if we probably would have got a chance. That sounds better. If we probably would have got a chance to see the mature side of Pop, he probably would have not agreed with that as well. But you know, he passed away at that stage, 25 years old.
What did Snoop think about Hit 'Em Up?
He loved it. From what I know, bumping his head. He was on stage whenever Pac was performing it, dancing to it.
Right.
See, when Hit 'Em Up first came out, I'm sure everybody loved it. They was with it because it was hot at the time. That was one of the hottest records. And then there was a war, you know how hip hop is. And Biggie them were like, whoa, East Coast, I'm talking about Pac them, they shut them down. You had to be there to see what I'm talking about, because that was the height of hip hop right there. And when Pac them came out with Hit 'Em Up, everybody like, hey, them the guys right there. You know?
Right. They have the I believe it's the last show you guys did at the House of Blues, and Snoop is definitely smiling.
And I think doing some ad-libs and stuff like that. Yeah. So he loved it back then. Don't know how he feel about it now. You know, he's a grandfather now, so he probably have every reason to say, I'm not feeling it, you know?
Were you guys expecting Biggie to respond?
We was at the beginning. We thought, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to go back and forth. We really thought, but I don't know. You know, maybe that was his strategy to not respond. He did respond after Pac died. You understand? Which was odd to me, where, you know, when I look back at it, I see the only time he ever replied was when after Pac passed away. You understand? So, but we thought he was going to go back and forth, and it was probably going to be going back and forth. And we just, because that was hip hop too. You know what I mean? That's what you're used to in hip hop. You start going back and forth with each other. You know what I mean? But he was quiet until Pac died. He started doing the subliminal disses. Like I said, the New York rappers back then, they was doing a lot of shots, taking a lot of shots. And it seemed like most of his, you know, his replies was after Pac died.
Right.
Now, while Pac was here, didn't nobody want to, you know, say nothing while Pac was alive, because they knew Pac was going to be on their ass. Pac was the man. You know, that shows right there who was the man. Pac alive, Pac went at him. Pac went that big, saying that he hit his wife and everything. Pac was alive, you heard nothing really. They probably was talking under their breaths and things like that. But on records, nobody said nothing. But as soon as Pac died, listen to what they saying. Now they want to throw subliminal messages. Now they want to diss on the slick, because they know Pac wasn't here to defend himself anymore. On the beats, on this rap studio stuff, they knew they couldn't mess with Pac. They knew Pac was going to go strong at them. And, you know, to me, I'm not saying that they cowards or anything like that, but that just shows me their character. Because when Pac was here, they didn't say anything. But as soon as Pac passed, now people want to jump out and say something. That show you they were feeling some type of way at the time.
Right. There was the I ain't mad at you, I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, and then
type of thing.
He you know, he rapped it on the radio in LA, and bullets coming at you, something like that. Like, it was, I ain't mad at you, like you said. So he seemed like he replied, but he replied to a man who's dead. You know what I mean? So Never got that. You know what I mean? I never understood that. Like you join the fight when the fight is over. That's how I looked at it back then. You understand?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
That's a fact, man. You joined the fight when the fight was over. So you out there fighting dead people. Man. But like Pac said, they gonna talk about me when they know that I'm gone because they fear me in the physical form. Let it be known I'm troublesome. It's your boy Mean Joe Green, and I'm up out.